Also brought to you by Mr. Matt Van. Whoop, let me turn the mic on.
Yeah,
also brought to you by Mr. Matt. I can't.
You are on a short leash, my man. You are on a very short leash tonight, Dennis.
Yeah.
For those out there in radio land, his headphones are coiled up, and he can't quite reach the microphone.
Here we go.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So,
as you were saying, also brought to you
by Mr. Matt Van Vorst of, let's see, what are we this week?
Mr. Donuts?
We're into January. We were talking about how he likes to shop at Smart Choice Auto Sales.
I remember that.
Right.
And before that, we were talking about some Mr. Donuts.
Right.
I don't know what we're talking about now. Just how great of a guy Matt Van Vorst. So let's talk about Stubblefield, his band.
Okay, well, let's talk about our guest tonight.
Ooh, well,
Kelsie
there you go.
Chavez, Halpin Music Company.
Yeah.
Repair personnel.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so
to fill you in on all that Matt Van Vorst stuff we were just talking about.
Yeah.
He advertises. He actually sells insurance, but he is giving his advertising to his friends. Okay. So he pays for the advertising, and then he has us name one of his friends' businesses.
Okay.
So
that's that.
Lean into the mic just a little more there.
I'll crank her up too. So
I tried to adjust this, but it fell back down. So I'll sit low.
Very old material there.
We need to make a trip to Halpin Music Company and get some new stuff.
There you go. Please do.
All right, so here you go. Just to throw out one of Matt Van Vorst's friends that owns a business, since he didn't give us one for today, we're going to say, check out Midwest Motorsports down on Route 3. Mr. John Roth down there is also plays in Stubblefield, so I know they got to know each other because they're in the same band.
Yeah, I hung out with him a few days ago. John Roth, me and him.
Yeah, good guy.
Matt was away, so we played.
Nice.
So, yeah.
All right, so there you go. So now to induct her into the show. Oh, it's your first time. You don't know. You don't even know what you've got into.
I think I've been down at Halpin Music and heard the Big Z playing over the speakers or whatever down there. I know when we had Mr. I can't forget his name right now, but Mr. Fireside, right?
Oh, yeah. Jody.
No,
Flip the Frog.
Flip the Frog.
Yeah, okay.
Joe.
Oh, Joe Whitehead.
Joe Whiteside.
Whiteside. There you go, Whitehead. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's such a gross name, Joe. Joe Whiteside.
That's right.
You know what he's going to be called at Halpin now.
I'm sorry, Joe.
So many bands working down at Halpin.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, that is right.
Then you got like John Hand, who just by himself in a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Let me try to think of them. Lady Luck, Miles Station, Glendale Riders, and I'm sure that there have been other people who have tried to get him to. They've just tried to rope him in, and he can't. He's all booked up for everything. And then we've got Neil, which I don't know if any here have met him, but Neil Miller. He's out of our Centralia location, and they have their own material. So their band is Broken Circle, and
original
kind
band.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
We'll have to get them in here.
They are. Graveyard Americana. So if you can kind of hear that in your head, you should check them out. Let's see. Well, we had Joe Whiteside there, and he's teaching viola. Oh.
You also got Phil Waits in there, which Phil. He jams with Matt Tall.
That's
right. So let's see who else.
Well, Lynn, you just mentioned him.
Flip the Frog.
Oh.
Lynn, I cannot pronounce his last name.
Asar.
And then there's Marcy, and I only know that because she gives my daughter flute lessons.
Okay.
I don't know if she's in any band, but she gives my daughter flute lessons.
No, I'm not sure either. I know that she played with a group in the past, but I don't know if she plays with anybody now.
Who's down there that plays a good horn?
Oh, a good horn. His name is escaping me right now.
See how that happened?
You know what? I told people I'm not a good name dropper, and I actually, funny story. There's another Kelsie that works at Halpin, and I was talking to my husband about her. I don't remember the story, but I referred to her as Stephanie.
Oh.
Well, Kelsey's a hard name for you to remember.
You know what? I don't call too many people Kelsie. It's hard.
I think deep down you wanted to be named Stephanie.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, Full House. I was all about that.
Right.
That's hilarious. You know,
So,
it's like, why don't one of the Olsen twins just die so we can quit guessing who's going to go first? I'm sorry. That was mean. I'm sorry.
And then we got another one who's in all the Marvel movies and not a twin, but looks just like him.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I don't know her name.
Yeah.
I don't know either, but now all I'm going to be thinking about is John Stamos all night.
Oh boy, it's getting hot in here.
So we will be talking to Kelsie about her job, where she does lots of repairs on lots of neat instruments. We've talked in the past about an instrument that I actually took down to Halpin Music that I came across that none of us knew what it was whenever I took it down. They're called the Tiple.
Yeah, and
We would say Tiple.
Tiple.
Right.
It's a Tiple.
And it's a 12-string ukulele-like instrument because, as Kelsie and I just found out, the Tiple dates farther back than the ukulele.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, by
That's
like
right.
100 years almost.
Yeah.
So we were
So-
trying to figure out, they reduce strings to get down to the ukulele at some point.
Right.
They're like 10's way too, or 12's way too much for this instrument.
Let's take a few off here. So it's not a temple, it's a Tiple.
You know what? I'm gonna just join the rest of us Americans and say Tiple.
But what is the real Tiple? So
It's Colombian.
I was getting ready to say that sounds South American or maybe French, but
Yeah.
So it's South American roots.
Right.
That's where I was going with that question.
First mention of it is in 1752. So
Yeah.
Wow.
way before the ukulele actually, and it's about the size of a tenor ukulele. Other than the thickness of it is it's deeper. So
Like a big old flat top.
right. It looks like a little guitar.
It does
And
very much.
this particular one is a 10-string, so they started off as 12 strings, or at least my research shows, starting off at 12 strings, and then there's Puerto Rican, Cuban, and Honduras, other countries of Hispanic origin that made a very similar instrument, called it the same thing. So this one's 10-string, and I'm thinking it's from the 20s, just based on the hardware.
And just from looking at it from this standpoint, I have not got to examine this instrument or even touch it yet. But looking at it right here, it looks like it's set up with like 2, 3, 3, 2.
That's right. Yeah, 4 courses, and then each course is tuned in unison. So there are
You got
several.
octaves.
Yeah. There's several tunings actually that people have used, but this one, just because I'm thinking most people are going to think ukulele, I tuned it like a ukulele.
That's not a Polynesian instrument at all.
So we'll be diving deep into the Tiple in just a bit. But as we do every single Thursday night, we've got to talk about what's going on right now in the Riverbend.
Things are already underway. It is 5 minutes after 6, and we know for sure that every Thursday at 6 p.m. there are people drinking Irish whiskey just over the hill at Morrison's Pub.
Right.
And then they do what's called the sea shanties, where everybody just starts singing songs together. And if you don't know the songs, they're very repetitive. You'll learn them.
I would think a Tiple would be a great instrument for a sea shanty.
I would think it might be. It's not of Irish descent, but I would imagine that
Well, you could sit in one of Morrison's booths and hold it rather comfortably, as opposed
absolutely.
to like a full-size acoustic guitar.
Absolutely.
So yeah, sea shanty sing along underway at Morrison's Irish Pub later tonight at Open Mic at Raging Cajun. Cross the Line going to be at Fast Eddie's tonight from 7 to 11. We're going to do music bingo at 7 o'clock, and then some karaoke at 9 o'clock with DJ Tony at Martin's Tunes and Eats in Wood River. Nick Sturgis underway already up at George's Local Brew in Jerseyville until 9 o'clock. Jeremy and Jameson Drake with Mike Snodgrass getting underway at 7 o'clock at Doit's Village Inn in Pontoon Beach. Mo Pleasure already underway at Patrick's in Granite City, and the Experience Live Music Row underway down in Belleville with Mr. Pat Liston, fresh off couple of sold-out shows at the pageant. Now he's down at Copper Fire from 6 to 9.
I think
He'll
he just
probably
did one at
all
the
weekend. Yeah.
I think he did one at the Alton Theater a couple days ago too. So
Right.
there you go. He's at the Copper Fire in Belleville this evening from 6 to 9 p.m. Just getting started there.
Also down there, Andre Dahl, 6 to 9, and Dover and Brown, 6 to 9 at 7 in Belleville. And that's all at Experience Live Music Row, where Belleville gets together with all their bars and just combines them into one giant event every single night, Wednesday through Sunday.
Wednesday through Sunday,
With a
multiple
sponsor.
events with multiple bands going on at all kinds of times. So good for them. Whoever's putting that together, give yourself an attaboy.
All right. So as we mentioned, our guest tonight, Kelsie Chavez, and she does all the instrument repair for Halpin Music. And I ran into Chelsea at our anniversary, right?
Yeah,
Halpin Music.
60th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then
she had a booth out there where she was fixing instruments right in front of your eyes.
That was pretty cool. And not too long after that, I come across this instrument. I guess it's been well over a year ago. A man by the name of Dan Bess, rest in peace, Dan, has passed away since this all started. But he's an antique dealer, and he come across a host of instruments, some guitars and different things, and he handed me that thing with no strings on it, and I looked down and went, all them knobs and no strings, I have no idea what this thing is. And I felt pretty good about it because everyone I talked to was like, I've never seen one of these things. So it ended up down at Halpin Music because Dan decided he would go ahead and try to restore it as best as he could, with the help of Kelsie. And I took it down there, and she's like, I'm going to pass this off to John Mondon. I don't know nothing about this. And I'm like, but don't you like to learn stuff like this? Brand, she's like, you got me, because we had talked at the anniversary thing, and I knew she had the fever for something new, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how it went. I said, you know what, John's going to know more about this, and if he doesn't, then he is your guy for getting the history right on this stuff. So I'm going to pass on this. I get so busy with setups and repairs that I just thought, you know what, John's going to get it done a whole lot faster than I am. I'm going to sit on this for a good long time, do some research on the history, figure out how in the world I'm going to fit this nut, because there wasn't a nut on it, and I didn't know anything about
What nut to get?
The string spacing, and I had to make it, so I didn't buy this. I needed to get it right, you know.
Yeah.
And
So you made the nut. So now for people who aren't instrument savvy, the nut is the piece right by, like the strings come from the bottom of the body up the neck to the tuners, and there's a little piece they lay over to make them hover over the frets. That's called the nut. And there's little grooves in the nut that tell you where to put the string. And the spacing on this thing, it's almost like you would use, 4 strings is what it was sort of set up, 4 spaces there. The first one has 2 strings, so that's your lowest strings. And then the next one has 3, the next one has 3, and then there's 2. And so the nut is very specific to this instrument. I've never seen one spaced like that.
Right.
It caught my eye as soon as I walked in, and I looked at it. I'm like, well, I've never seen anything like that before.
Right.
So you had to make that nut.
Yeah. So they sell bone blanks. It's just a big hunk of bone, and then you got to get the bottom right.
That's also my CB name, Big Hunk of Bone.
I need to be a little more careful.
Oh no, that's
choosy with my words.
Oh,
here.
that's my CB handle. It's all right.
It's not your words, it's his mind. That's the problem.
It's only weird if you make it weird, man. I'm not making it weird here.
It's more fun to make things weird.
Yeah, so
For real.
if you could, Kelsie, hold that nut closer to the camera so everybody can see that's watching the video what we're
camera's over
talking
there.
about as far as how this is set up. You can see the spacing there if you're watching the video version of this. And that's the interesting part, because as she was making this nut, she had to figure out exactly where those slots would go.
Right.
As matched up with the strings. Now, on the opposite end of the Tiple, you can see where the strings start there, and that was her only clue.
Right.
And that piece was loose as well, and she had to fasten that down in place. And Yeah, so that was the trick, right? That was the trickiest part, trying to figure out on an instrument you had no idea how the strings run,
Right.
how to run the strings.
Yeah, and I had a lot of help from my good friend Kevin Liley. Just by your laughing, you know him.
He actually has one of my guitars working on it right now. It's 1978 Gretsch,
He's
solid
the man.
body Gretsch. Yeah, he's been around this area working on instruments for a long time. He used to work down in the basement with old Don Hopper. Man, I like what feels like a lifetime ago to me right now. But yeah, that's so you said you weren't good at dropping names. Look at that.
Oh, I was definitely doing some rehearsing out in the car. I had to remember my own name.
So I'm Stephanie, right? No, I'm not Stephanie.
She is Kelsie Chavez. She does the instrument repairs at Halpin Music Company, who's been supporting this program since we got started.
Yeah. I don't even know how many years it's been now.
It's a lot.
Been a while. It hasn't been 61 like they've been around.
Now, Kelsie, we're going to do some history on you. Now, where are you from originally?
Well, let's see. I was born in Chesterfield, Missouri.
Okay.
And parents lived here in Alton. No, they didn't. Not at the time. We lived in Florissant at the time. Moved here to Alton when I was about, I want to say 3. And then moved out of Alton when I was 8 to a little town called Morrow.
Yeah.
Out in the country, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, half of my upbringing is more urban and half is very country. So.
Okay. And at what age did you discover instruments? And
my dad always played. When he was in high school, he played in a band. Loved it. So, and he always played. So it was always in the house. Music was always in the house. If it wasn't him playing it, then it was on a record or a CD or, radio, what have you. And
so did you learn to play an instrument?
I played piano when I was little. Mom didn't like that I was memorizing rather than reading the music. So that didn't last too long. And I wanted to learn guitar. So Dad tried to teach me guitar, but I'm not a good learner. And he had a big sheet of, I don't know if it was chord diagrams. I can't remember at the time because I was young. And it just kind of blew my mind. I didn't know what to do with that sheet with all these lines on it and circles, and that didn't last long either. Mm-hmm. I'm very much self-taught in many, many ways. And it wasn't until I picked up a book for myself and had to kind of teach myself. I mean, obviously, you're learning through a book. You're still learning from other people, but I couldn't do the teacher thing.
Mel Bay. I'm just saying that was my first guitar book was a Mel Bay book. You'd open up the first page like, this is your guitar.
Yeah.
This is a pick. This is how you hold the pick. And I'm like, I'm glad they're starting simple.
Very much. Identifies every part for you. I think mine was Hal Leonard.
Nice. So, as soon as you said you've got a book, I'm like, it took me back. I took me back. I'm like, Mel Bay. I hadn't thought about that name in a long time.
Yep.
So you still play today?
Yeah, I do, and I'm not in any bands at the moment. But I'm so busy, and I love and hate that. I love it because I have to be busy. My personality, I have to be busy. But then it kind of takes away from it steals my fun a lot of times. So I would love to be in a band. It's kind of like a kind of starving for that. But there at Halpin, I'm not only the stringed instrument repair, I'm also the road rep. So I'm all the way up in Pleasant Hill and all the way over in Centralia and New Athens and stuff. So I'm on the road too. And then a lot of times I take the repairs home, do that at my own home shop because there's not enough hours to do it there at Halpin.
All right. So fill our listeners in on what a road.
Well, we do a lot of rentals for kids that are learning in schools, bands, and orchestras. And those music teachers, those music directors need reeds, they need books, they need stands, they need strings. There's always needs, and then they need repairs, and kids need repairs. So I go to all those schools. I give them the purchases that they made through Halpin, and then I'll take the repairs from them. We'll get that done at the shop. I don't repair all the instruments. We've got
You
our
just
own.
foiled my next question. I'm like, you repair horns? Like,
I personally don't. We definitely do that there. We've got a guy in Centralia. We've got a guy in Alton. And so, but I pick them up. I assign them work orders, and I get them to where they need to go, whether that is Centralia or Alton. They get repaired within a week, and then I take them back the next week. So yeah, that and the rentals themselves, those rented instruments that those kids use, I take them to the
Service 'em.
schools. And service them. and
keep
everything.
them serviced and working, yeah.
Yep.
My daughter just recently dropped her flute, and it's no longer fitting together because it's not round.
Yeah.
We dropped it off, I think, on a Monday, and by like Wednesday, they were calling, going, "It's come on down to Halpin, pick it up, it's ready."
Yeah, Tim Weitzel. I mean, he's the man. He gets it done. He does not. He is probably the person with the most work ethic, or the best work ethic, I should say. Probably that I've ever met.
Right?
He loves what he does. He doesn't waste an ounce of time.
Nice. It was quick. It was a quick turnaround.
Good.
And it works
So
perfect.
back to the history. So at what point do you start working on the instrument instead of playing it as much?
Well, I really had to think about that. That was a hard. I don't know.
No, okay.
I think probably the first time I restrung a guitar and snapped the B string, because I thought I was tuning the right string. I'm tuning a string that I thought I was tuning a different string.
You're plucking and it's not changing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
twisting and it's not.
I'm twisting, and snap. It scared me and hurt and was frustrating. And then I finally realized what I had done wrong, fixed the problem, and I felt really good about that.
Right.
And I didn't start at that time, but I mean, that was probably the earliest thing that I could think of.
Maintenance to a guitar.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And probably for most people, too, because we're constantly getting things. And I broke my high E string.
Well,
It's always the high E string.
So, like changing strings on a guitar, I think most people, it's like putting gas in your car. If you're going to have a guitar, you're going to change strings. But like, at what point did you decide I can set one up?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I mean, because that's one of those things that now you're changing the intonation, you're tightening the neck bolt, there's different different things to it, putting it on a square or however whatever your technique is, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different level. I mean, it's knowing the instrument more intimately, obviously, but it's a different level of maintenance than changing strings, which just about everybody who owns a guitar eventually does.
Yeah. You know what? It's really not. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really that long ago. I would say 2014, 15, something like that. I started being interested in what is this thing up here on the headstock that is covered. Why are there screws there? What's it covering? It's covering a truss rod that goes through the whole neck. And I'm pointing here at this instrument, which doesn't have one.
Right, but I can imagine if it was a guitar, it would have a stress rod that controls the tension of the neck, and you can get it to bend one way or the other according to whether you loosen it or tighten it.
Yeah. So very interested in that. And then I had an Alvarez at the time that I loved, and I shouldn't say at the time. I still have it. It's still my favorite. But it had an adjustable saddle here on this end, and kind of fiddled around with that and figured out that if I get it too low, it's not going to sound good. If I get it too high, it's kind of hard to push
it hurts
down.
my fingers.
Yeah. And so I would say it was just very gradual. I didn't go to school for this.
Wow.
Definitely have educated myself, and I got an old Gibson at a yard sale for $10 because somebody just didn't know what they had. Old acoustic, and it was missing some of the bracing on the inside of the body. And I didn't know Kevin at that time. I asked my dad, I was like, I don't know, who should I reach out to? He said, well, there's a couple guys in the area. He had Kevin's information from work that he had done in the past. So I called him up, a stranger, and said, hey, very conscious of the fact that he's probably thinking that I would like to do this and steal work from him or get something done for free. But I was kind of taking my chances. I would really like to be kind of shown how to do this. Like, how could I make a brace off of an old instrument? You don't have, I don't have the brace. It's not just broken off.
You can't buy the brace. You have to make it. You have to.
Yeah, it's gone. And he was like, go ahead and come over. We'll talk about it. We'll look at it and we'll make something. So that was weird, because if you know Kevin, he works from his home, out of his basement. His shop is in his basement. My shop is in my basement. Basement's a great spot for a shop. But he's 60s, in his 60s, and I'm going over to an older gentleman's house in his dark basement at night. He's a complete stranger. Don't know him at all.
A lot of cold case files start out just like this.
Yeah. So,
no offense, Kevin. Not saying that.
Absolutely love that man to death. So, but as a first time, I'm treading very lightly, very aware of my surroundings and stuff. So, but I mean, he has become such a good friend and has taught me so much of what I know. So
I could see that where you're like texting your dad, just turned on such and such street.
Oh yeah, all
just
the time.
To let him know.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing is that he lives like a couple streets away from me.
There you go.
So it's like, hey, you doing something tonight? No. Can I bring this instrument by and you can show me how to do such and such? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Nice.
And he's a night owl. I'm a night owl. I can go over there and I'm not disrupting his sleep.
It is one of those things though, because I've had that happen to me where you have that moment of, oh no, what am I doing? And I went all the way over to Missouri, I don't know, Hillsboro or something like that, to buy a JBL monitor, and it was a 12-inch speaker, the nice big ones, for $75. This is ridiculous. And as I'm driving down this long driveway in the woods, I'm like, man, I didn't tell anybody where I was going. This deal does seem too good to be true. And then I get to this house and it's way out there. And I'm kind of like, I go and kind of knock on the door. No one answers. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get out of here. And the guy comes around the back. He's like, hey, come on around to the back. It's down in the basement. And literally when I'm walking through the basement door, everything's covered in plastic. Oh. Like a mob scene or something. And I was just about to take off running for my car when I see this open door with a bunch of music equipment. I'm like, well, they wouldn't have set that up just to lure me in. They got me already if they want me. But there was that one moment of, what have I done?
Yeah. Too late to turn around.
Everyone warned you about Craigslist, man. Why did I do that?
I knew it. Should have known.
I can see that as Kevin's, you don't know Kevin or anything, and he's like, come into the basement. It puts the lotion on its skin. And Kevin's such a sweetheart of a guy.
Oh, yeah.
That once you know him, you're like, yeah, I'm perfectly safe here.
Yeah. So I took him to the mechanic a couple weeks ago because the mechanic was going to put a key on his tire because they weren't going to be gone. They were going to be gone for the weekend, so they were going to just put the key on the tire and let it sit there. And he asked me to give him a ride. I was like, yeah, sure. I mean,
right.
Good friends.
Heck yeah.
He needed to go to the convenience store. He didn't tell me why, but he needed to go there. It was last year sometime. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take you. And he went in and came out with a bunch of root beer.
Nice. All right, so
go ahead.
So no, I just wanted to get back to so you learned your craft on your own with Kevin's help, and then a job opens up at Halpin. How do you end up there?
Yeah, well, it kind of got to the point where I realized nobody knows me. I mean, I told you that I'm from around here, but most of my adult life. I spent in California, so I had moved back here. Nobody knew me, and those who did know me didn't know that I was into this kind of stuff, and I don't have any name, and so I thought I need to actually work somewhere. Nobody's gonna give me their instrument and say, yeah, do this. I don't know who you are, and I don't know if your work is any good, but go ahead and.
You have zero references, but you know what?
Yeah. I had applied at Mojo's. I had applied at Swing City and Halpin. And Halpin, I mean, most people looked at me and kind of thought, okay, good to meet you. All right, nice. I brought a mandolin in that I had completely restored and stained, French polished the works, kind of just to say, this is what I do, this is what I've done, and love to have a job, but I don't know if that's what you're looking for. And oddly enough, you probably know this name, Joe Cacciatoli had done their work, guitar work for a long time, and he had just retired. So It was like it just fit. It just fit. So
it's all about right place and right time.
Right there.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and again, this is just me, but like I'm curious. The French polish, like I know what a French kiss is. so like, what did you do to polish this? Like, is that a tongue polish? I'm just saying, like, what'd the stain taste like?
It was intense.
I'm sorry. That was I've never heard of a French polish, and I'm like, first thing I thought is, well, let's see. I know French fries. I know French kiss. Like, did you deep fry it? No, I don't know.
All of these things are good.
All of these things.
I would say a French polish is the least good of those things.
And what is a French polish?
Okay, so it's a shellac, which a shellac is actually, it comes from a bug, which is kind of gross, but it like secretes out of the bug on trees. But you dissolve that hard shellac in alcohol, and with alcohol and shellac and oil, basically, you build up layers slowly over time. You build layers, you sand. You build more layers, you sand. You build more layers, and by building layers, you've got this wad of fabric that you're just circling all over. Circling. And I am so thankful that it was a mandolin and not a guitar, because I don't know how many hours, and hundreds of hours, and that's not an exaggeration. It's probably shortchanging it. Amount of hours that it takes to build and sand and build more. To create a mirror shine. See,
this is the first time I've heard the term shellac in, like, I built cabinets for years, and when we had to build bar tops with big, thick lacquer on them, that's what my uncle would always call it. Oh, we got to get some shellac on this, and you put a layer on, let it dry, give it a polish, put another layer on, and just slowly build it up for this big, clear finish. But you're the first person I've heard use that term in like 30, 40 years or something.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that is at the time, I didn't realize that is like the most old school way to shine an instrument or any kind of furniture, wooden thing. I thought this is how they do guitars, I guess.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more wrong.
Right.
Nobody does that anymore.
Right.
No one.
That's how they take a sprayer and they spray them down, it's all different now.
I could see you out there carving on trees, trying to get your hard stuff to soften up with alcohol.
I didn't harvest it myself.
Chasing bugs around.
I let somebody else do that work.
Was it like a dung beetle that puts it up there? I don't know.
No, they've got another job.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a break and get on to Friday and Saturday real quick, and then we'll get back to the Tiple and finish up that story. So going on at Jacoby's, it's First Friday this Friday night, and it's the last look at Rich Brooks's display called The Art That Makes You Smile.
All right.
That's a good name for art.
Yeah. All right.
And that's 6 to 8, and you can meet and mingle, and I'll have some fun going on down at Jacoby's on Friday night. And that takes us to the pianos at Raging Cajun every Friday night at 9 o'clock. Champagne Fixx going to be at Fast Eddie's at 7:30. Dueling Pianos out at Baker's and Hale and Godfrey on Friday night until 11. And let's see, West Wind down at Doit's Village Inn from 8 to about 12:30 a.m. Down in Pontoon Beach. Toxic Johnny at Patrick's in Granite City starting at 8. And more dueling pianos this time. The Wildy Theater
Oh.
And it's a rescheduled event. One of them that got froze out probably.
And previous tickets are
going to be honored.
Are going to be honored there.
And that's Mr. Mike Sonderegger, very talented pianist, and Cameron Brown. Going to duel it out at the Wildie Theater starting at 7 o'clock. What a great place to see a show.
Yep.
Skylark Brothers going to be at the 1818 Chop House. Don't take your vehicle there. 7 to 10 at the Chop House. That's steak. That's not like an auto body shop or stolen vehicle.
I'm still not parking too close, just in case.
Just in case. Also on Friday night at Reese's Brewery is Ryan Holting from 7 to 10 and Strange Buffalo Trio from 7 to 11 at the cabin at Judy Creek and Glen Carbon. On Friday night, Dave Horton, 7 to 11 at the Moose in Edwardsville to wrap up Friday. Of course, there's always Experience Live Music Row down in Belleville.
A bunch of bands playing at a bunch of different venues there.
It's a really cool thing. We come across this thing in Belleville, Kelsie, about these venues actually combining their efforts to draw people into their town as more of an experience for all the venues instead of just individual venues kind of promoting their own acts. They got a sponsor to help them advertise this as one whole thing.
Right.
So you can bar hop while you're down there. We found that very interesting. He puts on festivals. And the reason we find it interesting, he'll do one a year, and it takes him all year to get a bunch of bands together to throw a show. These people
guys
are doing this Wednesday through Sunday down in Belleville.
Wow.
So.
And the way that they have put it together is thoughtful too, where the first band starts at 6, and other bands are starting at 7 and 8 and 9, where it's spread out, so you could actually go see a little bit of each band.
That's
you could
right.
catch an hour of each band because they're all, I think, pretty much in walking distance for the most part.
Right.
So
So
there you go.
I want to move on to Saturday because you were jumping ahead a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was.
Look at
Yes,
that.
I was. You're right. You are correct. That is Saturday night that Pat Liston is at the Alton Little Theater. I said he was just there. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Listen. If you've been listening to this show, if you've ever heard this show, everything I say is pretty much not
Fake news.
Yeah, fake news. It's wrong. I'm just opening my mouth and letting words spew forth. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So Pat Liston doing the Alton Little Theater.
Yeah. There you go.
$25 to see
nice.
him at the
And
Alton. He'll do some extra stuff there.
That's going to be a good intimate place to see him, where it's going to be a listening crowd for sure.
I want you to move on to the next one now because that's one of your buddies.
Okay. Oh, let's see. What do we got? Awaken. Jules Fair. I don't know. Jules Fair will lead. Oh, Steph Plant. There we go. I'm like, I don't know Jules Fair. Is that my buddy? Awaken. Jules Fair will lead. And then Steph Plant will be offering a musical performance and a crystal bowl singing sound bath. That's Crystal Stevens of Flourish Farmstead will speak about plant medicine and provide botanical tea. That's all going on down at the Riverbend Yoga Center on Saturday. That's $15. So you got Jules Fair, you got Steph Plant, and then Crystal Stevens.
All right. How about Steph doing the old sound bath now?
So I'm not sure that. So it says here, and this is just me talking.
Okay.
Steph Plant will be offering a musical performance plus crystal singing bowl sound bath.
Right.
I believe that's her husband that's going to be doing
okay.
that. She'll be playing her songs and playing what she does. She plays the acoustic and writes beautiful little songs. I think he'll be doing some bowl singing over the top of that.
Right.
It's just my guess.
Steph Plant does the best children's songs.
She
She writes for. She's a teacher, right?
Yeah, she teaches
And
at a
so,
Montessori.
yeah. So she does some of her teaching with songs.
And she lets her students help write some of her
Right.
songs, which is great.
Best way to learn.
Oh yeah,
There's a video of her playing a song about a moth
yeah,
that we did with her, right?
yes. It's beautiful. It's when she says, "I'm going to do a song about a moth," I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And then like 3 lines in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a good song. Like, how do you make a good song about a moth, man?
So we learned that night that a moth lays its eggs and then passes away, right?
Aw.
But a moth will wait and find the perfect place to do this. And Steph Plant was the perfect place for this moth to do that, right? Landed on her hand or something and laid an egg and
laid
then
eggs
flew
on
off.
her, and so she
Yeah.
made sure that those eggs saw their way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wrote a song about it.
And wrote a song about it, yeah. I was sitting here thinking as I said that, I'm like, how do you can write a song? And it's like, well, Hoyt Axton did have Gypsy Moth. I mean, that was a good song. So I guess it's been done before, but still.
Also,
kudos.
some friends of ours playing at the conservatory on
Oh, yeah.
Saturday night, 1781, which is named for the Shop and Save.
The old Shop and Save
Right?
address, yeah.
That was Shop and Save number 1781, where they all worked.
Yeah.
And they're going to be with Birds of Squalor
There you go,
and
man.
Freddie Versus.
I don't know Freddie Verse, but Birds of Squalor, always pretty fun to watch those guys.
Jamie Dunn, right?
And, yep, Jamie Dunn. Chris Vandehee.
Right.
Which means of the high. Vandehee. Yeah, I love that name.
So that all kicks off. Doors open at 7. $10 cover at the conservatory on Saturday night. Pianos again at Raging Cajun every Friday and Saturday night. Danny Kalaher are going to be doing the 2 to 6 slot at Fast Eddie's, followed by Champagne Fixx at 7:30. Southside Johnny Band, they're going to fire it up at Third Shoot at 9 p.m., go to 1 a.m. Tripwire will be out at Baker's and Hale on Saturday from 7 to 11. Joe Dirt's in town.
Oh, look at that.
Just had
Boy,
Mr. Mark Quinn on.
I was going to say, fresh off their El Monstero shows.
All sold out once again. And they had to move one of them, got canceled, and still sold it out.
Yeah, yeah. And,
That was the night we had him on. They ended up moving that show. We had taped it in advance. So
And 2 weeks later, they're Joe Dirt, and they're not playing Pink Floyd. They're playing everything else.
they're playing at the Pump House.
They're playing whatever they open.
Downtown Woodruff.
Hey, so I'm going to tell you, if you're thinking I've never been to the Pump House, I want to see Joe Dirt. Take some money to play some pinball. Take a pocket full of quarters with you.
Or if you went to El Monstero and thought, man, that lead singer's hot. Right? You can meet him.
Believe
You
me,
can
I
meet
did.
him, right? Saturday
Believe
night.
me, every time I see him, I think, wow.
You can get real
that's a
close to him
handsome
at the
man.
Pump House. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm supposed to stay 100 foot away ever since there's, I don't know, it's been some sort of indictment or I don't know, whatever. It's fine.
Martin's Tunes and Eats will be Rolly at 2 p.m. That's all they have listed. Terry Beck up at Grafton Winery from 3 to 7 on Saturday. West Wind doing night number 2 down at Doit's Village Inn in Pontoon Beach. Flip side, 8 o'clock at Hooch and 16s in Granite City. Jared Lutz will be playing the Corner Tavern in Edwardsville. That's just catty corner from the Wild E. And playing at Wild E will be our friend, Mr. Tennant, with his Silver Bullet Bob Seger tribute. Steve Tennant.
Mr. Strennan.
Yeah. That's one heck of a Bob Seger tribute band. We've been watching Steve Tennant do Bob Seger for like 80 years.
Well, I've done time with
You've
this
done
guy
time with
on the
him.
road. Yeah, I've done time
In
with
jail?
Well, not in jail.
I
in
probably
stinky
did.
bars and stinky hotels, whatever. But one of my so I've seen this guy play so many times over the years. But one of my favorite memories that I think of was a long time ago when he lived up on State Street and we're just hanging out in his living room, and he inhales a bunch of smoke and then puts a harmonica up and starts playing shanty, and smoke's pouring out the other end of the harmonica. And you know him; he's so goofy about it.
Well, he's up with the sun, gone with the wind.
Oh my gosh! All right, hold on, right now. Like there's a million Bob Seger songs. Taking the Chevy truck ones off the plate because we
Okay.
know those are great. No,
Okay.
I'm just kidding. What's your favorite Bob Seger song?
Mine?
See,
Oh, man, there's too many to name.
that's
There's
what
too
I'm
many
saying.
To name. There's a lot of good ones. The
That's-
next one that comes on the radio would
Roll
probably
me
be
away.
Roll Me Away.
Okay.
Yeah. Sunspot Baby. No,
Yeah.
I think it's a good one. I don't know. Anyway.
Turn the page.
Let's turn the page
Yeah.
to the next band that's playing. That'd be the American Originals. They're at Big Daddy's in Edwardsville Saturday evening from 6 to 9 p.m. And right down the road at the Foundry Public House on Saturday, an early show, 2 to 5 p.m. We got Scott Marlin. So, that's going to be a good one going on there.
All right. Butch Moore at Viva La Fiesta in Edwardsville. Have some Butch Moore and a taco from 5 to 9 on Saturday.
Butch Moore and a taco. That is a good time right there.
Well, hopefully you can have a good time if you make it to Reese's Brewery and they haven't sold out, because guess who's there again?
So this might be the first one that they haven't sold out. I think they've sold out every one of these shows. It's the Against the Grain comedy shows.
There's still time.
There's still time, and they're probably going to sell it out. I don't know. Let's see who we got here. Max Price, Casey Paulson, and Jeremy Hellwig, which that is not a real name.
It is.
Hellwig. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that gets underway at 9 o'clock at Reese's, and that's a comedy show. We've had Doug Morse on.
Yeah.
And Steven Stryker.
Steve Stryker.
Who put the Against the Grain comedy show together.
And they have sold out, I believe, every one of them so far. So this one is probably going to sell out, too. So if you want them tickets are $15, I'd check it out.
Yep. Cherry Kendall Duncan, 7 to 10 at Lyle's Tavern in Maryville on Saturday, and Scott and Michelle.
Cherry Kendall Duncan. I don't know why that just sounds
I think
like.
she usually goes by Cherry. Solo.
And that's fine. It just, the three names, it just sounded very official. I don't know.
It is
Please welcome Miss Cherry Kinder Duncan. It just sounds very
How about Denver Wade Trent?
That sounds like I hate to say this, Denver. Maybe you should think about it, but it sounds like a killer, like three names, like, John Wayne Gacy. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. How about Scott and Michelle?
Now that sounds dead sexy there.
It is. That is sexy. 7 to 11 at the cabin at Judy Creek and Glen Carvin on Saturday. How about Cash for a first name? Cash Goten, 6 p.m. And then Outlaw Opry. He's opening for Outlaw Opry, so that's a gig.
There you go. The name Cash, it would set the bar way too high. Like there's already this expectation that's never going to happen with me.
That's going on at BB's in Fielding. So
wow, hey, I don't know that I've heard about BB's in Fielding. So there you go.
Leave it to Outlaw Opry to let us know where to play. Right, because they play all over the place.
All right, so that's a lot going on, man. A lot going on.
Let's get back to our T-play.
Oh, say that again a little slower and more
T-play.
sultry.
We have the 10-string version
of the
T-play. Found somewhere near here. Now, what I remember about that, when I brought it down that day, your first look at it, you started noticing the trim that goes around the body, and you were explaining to me that this is probably handmade and very old.
Yeah. There are plenty of guitars that have fake binding. Binding is not necessary to make a guitar, but it is kind of what gives where the side meets the top, it gives it structure. So there are plenty of guitars that don't have that. This has binding that gives it structure, and then on the top, it's got and I should say around the sound hole, it's got a trim that is little tiny pieces of wood, and they're all kind of rainbow colors. It looks like I shouldn't say rainbow, red and green and brown and wood tone, dark brown, light brown. It kind of looks like tile work, and they're all separate little pieces of wood. So it's not done like tile work. They're not putting little tiny pieces around it like a puzzle, but they are separate. So it just,
Wow. Okay. And from here it was hard. It's hard to tell. Like I haven't seen it up close. Yeah. This is as close as I've been to it.
He's kind of begging you to hand it to him.
Well, yeah. You can feel it.
No, I'm not. But
yes, he is.
I am grabbing it because that is. And whenever you brought up the screws earlier being flathead screws, so you place it before the 1930s.
I want to say that was before we came on the air, but I'm not sure. So let's go over that again.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were talking about trying to date it whenever I showed it to you, and we could tell by the finish that it was old. We didn't know how old. So you did some research, and we found out that they were popular in the 20s and 30s. And Martin was one of the main producers of them.
Wow. Okay.
And there's a lot of similarities to the Martin. Now, you were saying that you thought it was more toward the 20s because noticing the screws on the tuners, that they were flathead screws instead of Phillips screws. So they had to be, unless somebody put flathead screws in instead of Phillips, which wouldn't make any sense at all because it seems like the Phillips would be more available.
Yeah, Phillips came out and they certainly didn't do away with flatheads, but
the flatheads weren't eaten as well. They were not eating well once Phillips came along. I'm just
Right.
saying.
Especially on these little tiny screws. So there are screws that hold in the screw with a gear that holds in the tuner. But there are also these tiny screws that hold the whole tuning plate to the head, and then these tiny screws that hold the bridge down. And those are hard to turn with a flathead. I'm thinking it would have been Phillips that was used if it was later. But certainly they could have just used flatheads.
It could have been, but you say the Phillips was invented in the 30s.
Early 30s.
Early 30s. So this is probably predating that.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I guess this is the sort of instrument there's no serial number or any way to look
serial
up.
Number, no serial number, no brand even.
And I think we talked about that a little bit. You know, we kind of lean towards Martin. Martin's known for producing these. Back in 1919 is when they started producing the Tiple or the Tiple. And you had noticed before even looking that up that it kind of had some resemblance to Martin, right? What kind of clued you in there?
Martin has a headstock that's similar to this.
Yeah.
And that was probably my second clue. The first clue, I can't even tell you what the first clue is. I look at it and I think Martin.
The body shape, the headstock with the two cutaways that the strings are going down in.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about why they wouldn't have put their name on it. It didn't happen until later that Martin started kind of saying, hey, these are our things that we're making.
Yeah, well, I mean, my thought is that it's not Martin.
Okay.
But that it does resemble it. And I wish I knew the answer to that. I'm sure that John Mondon or somebody can tell me why did companies put so much into their instruments and then not label them or even give them a brand. I don't know if he's listening, but I will ask him next time I see him for sure because it's fresh on my mind. But yeah, if there's not something inside the sound hole that's a number or a sticker or something, then surely there's a brand on the headstock, but there is not on this. There's no markings, and I have looked in there with a flashlight and a mirror and tried to find something that's really, really light.
There's some initials carved. No, I'm just kidding there.
I'm thinking, what? I know this. I've looked at this all over the place. There's no initials.
So just before we move on, you said the term sound hole twice, and what a great name for a club. Why isn't somebody naming a club the Sound Hole?
It's too obvious.
Yes.
I will say another thing that made me think it's an earlier model is the ones that I have, the Tiples that I have, Tiples, I guess I'll say it right, that I've looked up have a saddle that's either made of bone or some other material that you can slide out or take out. This almost looks like a long fret. It's almost fret wire.
Wow. Yeah, and that's all a one piece?
Yeah, this is one piece here, and I'm sure that if I got a little hammer, I could probably tap on it enough to slide it out just by looking at it. But yeah, the newer things are probably going to have a bone or some sort of a other material.
Something I found out. Now, we talked about how this is Colombia was the origin of the 12-string tipple, and then all the countries around there seem to take strings off. You know, in Puerto Rico, and there's 4-string
smaller
versions,
hands
which
there.
I would call a ukulele at this point. You know, if you get down to 4, right?
Well, I would think once you're down to 4, you're sort of in. Is that a little bigger than a ukulele?
Like a tenor uke. So a tenor ukulele is a little bit bigger than maybe like a soprano.
Okay.
And this is about the size of a tenor uke, although it's, like I said, it's deeper.
Yeah, fatter.
The body is.
And we noticed the neck as well being different than a ukulele. It's
shape.
a little bit more rounded, right?
This one has kind of a triangle
a little
shape
bit of
to
a
it.
ridge there.
Yeah, you can actually see where whoever played it, where they had their hand most, and it was up here, which makes sense.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
In the first position.
Yeah, because the action gets higher as you go up, so it makes it a little harder to play up there. So they're spending a lot of time right here.
Somebody loved that instrument.
They
did, wore
but
the
took
schlack
very
off of it.
good care of it. I mean, there's some nail marks here, so these are fingernail marks here, but But they took very good care of it. It looks very used and very taken care of.
That's what I mean. You can
like
tell
the best thing.
that instrument has been played. You can tell by the fingernail marks on the front, and when you just showed me the back of the neck, and you can see where the schlack is worn down. That means somebody has been playing the heck out of that instrument. But yet, look at it, as old as it is. I don't know how much work you had to do to it to get it to this shape, but it's looking beautiful from over here.
Well, good. I really didn't do much in the way of structure other than that bridge, but everything's on it. Nothing's peeling off. There's one tuner that is slightly bent, just slightly, and not so much that I would ever go into trying to replace that.
Right, because to replace that, you're not going to find another one of these.
It's going to stick out more than it.
You would have to have. Yeah, I was going to say it would look odd. And what a beautiful instrument. So there you go.
So that first mention was in 1752 in Columbia, where it is the international instrument of Columbia. A man by the name of Pablo Mingüe
Escobar.
Errol.
Oh, he tried.
Sorry,
he tried.
I tried. It's a tough name, yeah.
Sorry, as soon as you said Pablo, I threw out Escobar. I didn't know. I was just guessing.
Just search
be.
Tiple Wikipedia.
Right.
You can read that name yourself because that's, yeah. But what I found interesting that, once Martin started producing them in 1919, part of what the Wiki story told was that in the 20s through the 40s, there was a ukulele craze in the United States. I didn't know that was a thing.
Right?
Can you imagine a ukulele craze?
Well,
All the hippies.
I was gonna
pre-hippies.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the 20s, so it's the raging 20s.
Right.
Like nothing was illegal then, so they were just having a good time partying all the time. I don't know.
So that led Kelsie to asking the question: what is the North American United States international or national instrument, which we don't have? But she asked the question: what's the first instrument North American based?
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is trivia.
Yeah. So
Pigpen, what are you going to call?
If we had one, we as a society, as a nation, have already decided what it would be. We just haven't named it yet. So I don't know. Can you take a guess?
Do you know what it'd be? What would you guess?
I'm sitting here bracking my brain trying to think of what the first North American, because everything seems to everything I can, a synthesizer, everything I can think of predates.
Got to be electronic.
Yeah, it's got to be electronic, right?
Well, all music, as we've learned on this show, starts with punk rock, right?
This is true.
The electric guitar might be a good guess. Right?
Well, yeah.
But, that doesn't go back far enough. So let's think about what we talk about. The origins of punk rock come from bluegrass, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a hint. It's a bluegrass instrument.
Banjo?
There you go.
There we go. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. I was trying to think. So fiddles obviously predate our country, and, and mandolins, they got to go back a ways.
So there you go. Three chords and the truth.
Three
banjo.
Three chords and the truth is what it's all about, man.
So there you go. And, they produced Martin up into the 70s, these Tiples, which I had no idea. Tiple. Can you play the Tiple?
Senor, can you play me your Tiple? I'm just saying, I can see it, man. Like this is I could get into this culture.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the Tiple story.
Man, and
finally wrapped up. We've been talking about this since I came across the instrument,
which has been like over last summer, middle of the summer, or something like that. And
we kind of left that part out that I encouraged Kelsie to do the job instead of having John Mondin do it, and Dan Bess, who was involved, said just tell her to take her time. There's no hurry. So I said to her, hey, look. Here's an opportunity to do something you've never done before. Yeah. He's not in a big hurry. So being a sweet person she gave us a big old discount on top of it. So.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
Well, I have to thank you, too, because you pushed me to do it, and I just was like, oh, man, I don't know about that. So he was kind of just like, you know what? This is your practice. Go ahead for it. Go for it. And,
One more
I
thing
wouldn't
on
have.
your repertoire.
I know. Yeah, it's
You
going to
know.
mean nothing to most people, but
You
there
should have
you go.
gave it a French polish.
I should have. What was I thinking?
That would have cost a
Never
lot more.
again.
Yeah, that would have cost a lot more. You're paying by the hour for the French
That's right.
polish.
10,000 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go, the story of the Tiple or the Tiple, and thank you very much, Kelsie Chavez, for coming in and talking to us about all you do. And if somebody wants to get their instrument worked on, very simple process, just go down to Halpin and lay it on the counter and say, "Can you fix this?"
Yeah. And they will take it from you and call you days later and say, "It's ready, man." And it always seems to be right, no matter what instrument it is. Saxophone, it's flutes, it doesn't matter. They cover it all down there.
We do. If we don't do it, we know who does.
Right. So you're mostly acoustic instruments, though, right?
Me personally, or
Yeah,
the shop?
You.
I'll do both. I do
Okay.
both. I was working on a Floyd Rose before I got here. I should say a Flying V with the Floyd Rose
Nice.
on it. So
You got
yeah.
an electric guitar?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do electronic work, but we've got another guy who does much more electronic work than me in Centralia and amp work and stuff. So
You got a
do well.
Stratocaster with a whammy bar?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
Stratocaster with a whammy bar.
You can jam like Joe's Garage.
Thank you guys for having me too.
Yeah, hey,
We
thanks so
couldn't
much
do
for
the
coming
show
down.
without you guys. Halpin Music has been there for us since the beginning and supporting local music for 60 plus years now, right?
Well, and in all honesty, I was sitting here thinking just a second ago as we're wrapping up, I was thinking, wow, like, so it's fun to have musicians in and hear their stories, because sometimes when you know a guy and all you do is play music, you don't even really know who they are. So to sort of talk, because usually it's like, hey, just shut up and play the guitar,
Yeah, a little backstory.
But a lot of times I already know the people, and this was something I knew nothing about. I think I met you briefly at the 60th anniversary
yeah.
thing, because you had a little thing. So I knew nothing about you or the instrument. So this was a very informative hour for me.
Oh, good. You walked away with some useless knowledge about an instrument that most people don't know anything about, but
There are very few things that my brain wants to retain, and I believe I'm going to retain some of this, because again, you've just showed me an instrument I've never seen before. Dennis has talked about it for the past 6 months. I've just never got to lay my eyes on it. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, there it is.
ukulele.
Yeah, there it is. It
Which
looks
really
like
is-
somewhere over the rainbow is going to get played before we leave here.
It was the fun of the whole story. I mean, here's a man that had no idea what it was, handed it to me. I had no idea what it was. I go to
Handed it
Halpin
to her?
Music. She's like, what? And I'm like, okay, now we got something going here. And it turns into a year-long story, and a new friendship developed with me and Kelsie over this. So pretty
absolutely.
cool, man.
There you
That's
go.
what music does, and that's why it's important, and that's why we promote it every week. And that's why you should get out and support
That's
local
right.
music and art around the river bend, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so should we mention our other sponsor one more time?
Matt Van Voors of Matt Van Voors' used Cadillac. No, I don't know. I don't know what he's selling now.
Right, and for our radio listeners, this will be on our YouTube channel sometime tomorrow. Cottonmouth.org is where you find everything we do, including this entire list. We didn't even get to Sunday. There's a whole list of shows Sunday. We keep that updated all the time. It's also a great place if you're a venue to look and see who to book in your club. Or if you're a band, you go there and find where to go play, because all you got to do is click on the links. They'll take you right to the place. One big worksheet is all it is, right at Cottonmouth.
As soon as you click on the website, the first thing you see is what's happening tonight in our area. So there you go. You don't have to search for it. It's right there.
All right, and that's thanks to Halpin Music Company and Mr. Matt Van Voors, who likes Mr. Donut and Midwest Motorsports and
Star of adult movies, Matt. No. Poor Matt. This guy's so nice. He's sponsored us for years. And, I'm always getting a little too handsy with him and always getting a little too free by talking about what we... No, I don't know. Poor Matt. I'll see you later, though, Matt. I'll be over later.
I got to spend an entire week with his dog.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
With his dog.
Yeah. It's a three-legged dog. It's a rescue.
Yeah, I could see
The
that.
dog
I could see Matt and Julie
The
rescuing
dog
a dog.
was from a farm. His name's Rascal, and the other dogs at the farm beat him up, and ended up
Cyberbullied him, I heard.
losing a leg over it. And so Matt's like, none of this anymore. We need to rescue this dog, and it's a lab, big golden lab. And if you've been around a lab, they're just the nicest dogs ever.
Very friendly dogs.
They got a big bark just to say hi, and then after that, it's all love.
Then they'll lick you and knock you over with the lick. So any idea where he rescued it from?
A farm.
From a farm.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Farm pond just north of Brighton. That's
right.
what Larry Reed would say. He caught his biggest fish.
Rest in peace, Larry Reed.
That's right.
So there you go. Big thanks to Matt Van Voris and Halpin Music for sponsoring the show for so many years and allowing us to come in here and do whatever has just happened. I don't even know what you would call this mess.
Educate Pigpen. That's what happened tonight.
I learned about to play and about,
You got to touch it.
Kelsie Chavez.
Right.
There we go.
There you go.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming in, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. If you're watching this video, everybody remember the most important part of it all is to get out and support local music and art.